Hey there, Vermont. This is the World Bank's 2017 global valuation of $80 trillion. And this is more of a business broadcast for us small business owners, small startups. Hi there, Luisa Timofeyev. I hope I enunciated your name correctly. Nice seeing you. So, the World Bank in 2017 valuated the global economy at $80 trillion. Meanwhile, let's go take a little look-see. Whoops, hold on. Sorry. Hit the wrong button. Gotta watch out for that. I gotta find that little graphic. Hold on. Where did I put that? Anyway, I'll flip the screen here in a short second. Just wanted to share with the business community across the state of Vermont and several, I apologize, we have these notifications coming up. One of the awesome, here we go, we're done. I just wanted to discuss the awesome 50 Shades of Communism plan by Bernie Sanders, pitching Sanderism, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortezism, the $93 trillion plan for renewable energy of America, the $32.6 trillion Medicare for All plan for America, and that basically totals $125.6 trillion. The valuation by the Global Bank in 2017 is $80 trillion. And again, good old feel the burn from the burn, the third term reason for term limits, Vermont's U.S. Senator, Democrat Socialist, Progressive Socialist, Independent Socialist, is teaming up with the New York U.S. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who seems to be adjusting to capitalism rather nicely down in Washington, D.C. She has one of the best Washington, D.C. pads. She's certainly updated her wardrobe with new fashion. But let's really crunch the numbers. Now, I'm going to dive into this a little deeper, but this is just as many individuals that are sending in donations to feel the burn from the burn, Bernie Sanders. The socialist mayor, he was never a Vermont governor. The socialist U.S. congressman, the socialist Vermont third-term U.S. senator, reason for term limits, feel the burn from the burn, Bernie Sanders. Part of the trifecta of deflecta between Leahyism, Sanderism, and Welchism, those EB5 scandal champions that really brought a negative $375 million result, and that's just in two projects. The failed Northeast Kingdom EB5 scandal that left a negative $365 million result after the settlement. Jane Sanders' failed real estate speculation with the Burlington College debacle. And we're also seeing several other Vermont colleges that are probably not going to be teaching, let alone being financially viable in the very near future. Green Mountain College was one recent college that is no longer going to be offering courses coming up in the fall. But Bernie Sanders has just recently announced his 2019-2020 bid to advance the destruction that he passed on as a transplant Vermont representative. Now that he's teaming up with the new beauty queen from New York, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. We're going to have a little fun with some of the numbers that these pie-in-the-sky utopian dream, 50 shades of communism, Marxism, socialism, Democrat socialism, progressive socialism, socialist Democrats, socialist progressives. Basically anybody that's socialist. Let's really crunch the numbers. So in the global evaluation in 2017 by the World Bank, the global economy's valuation was at $80 trillion. And just in 2 plans from the 50 Shades of Gray, socialist, Marxist, communist, Democrat, socialist, socialist, Democrat, socialist, progressive, progressive, socialist. A lot of socialism going on in there. We're presently witnessing 2 socialist heroes that Bernie Sanders has publicly announced. The country of Venezuela is presently in a real-time 2019 financial meltdown collapse. He's praised Nicolas Maduro. He's praised Hugo Chavez of being leading innovators of socialist. It's more like dictatorships. When you've got your country's leader blocking humanitarian efforts to bring in food to the people of Venezuela. When you've got people as old as Dianne Feinstein, and we all know how good of a bully she is, because, boy, when she cornered Alaska's representative during the Supreme Court Justice nomination process, that awesome display of how, if you don't do it their way, it's kind of the highway, or we're going to bully you right into the thought process. So, long story short, we're having a little fun with the numbers. And Vermont has certainly felt the burn from the burn, Bernie Sanders. The trifecta of deflecta, Leahy, Sanders, and Welch, have certainly done a fantastic job of destroying the state of Vermont, once one of the leading dairy producers in the country, from 12,000 farms down to 900 to 746, depending on the farming classification these days. Rebranding anything that's grown in the state of Vermont as being organic, another interesting marketing campaign. And listen, Vermont does produce some great products, and I'm actually going after the policies more than I'm going after. I do love my little state. Vermont is a beautiful little state. I'm just a little tired of these never-ending taxpayer bailout Ponzi schemes that Bernie Sanders has become, pretty much an expert at. When you're talking about a representative that was a socialist mayor up in Burlington, that has still left the infrastructure of Burlington decaying, not updating, all the way back to his socialist mayor leadership before he became Vermont's socialist U.S. congressman. Right around the time that the former Soviet Union was collapsing in December of '91. And now he's Vermont's 3rd term, part-time U.S. Senator who's all about raising money for himself, 77 years old, soon to be, 78 or 79 by the time, if he's elected. I mean, he's beating Kamala Harris. She's a lot prettier than he is. She's a lawyer out in California. And let's face it, we've seen the leadership in California. They've already pulled the plug on the $77 billion fast train boondoggle that they've promised Californians. California has the largest homeless population along all their bike trails, which is seriously sad to see. And they've got their new governor, Newsom, he pledged and vowed that he was going to be former Governor Jerry Brown proud, and continued to pass on more despair, lack of opportunity, promising utopian dream boondoggles while he's, continues the destruction of California. So we're just going to share some numbers. After doing a little bit of research and actually talking to some individuals that were part of the projects up here in the state of Vermont that installed the solar farms, the 2 industrial wind turbine farms, the Seneca project up in the Northeast Kingdom, and if I've got the location right, there's the Coolidge wind farm. Now, granted, they're renaming these projects. That's great. However, when you get to talk to some of the individuals that have actually led in these projects, they are very open and honest in the fact that they installed, let's just say, the less costly, not quite efficient solar panels, that the super polished ones out in the deserts of Arizona, etc., that are far more efficient and can actually, hopefully, can generate more electricity than what we're seeing so far. I'm having a little fun with the 50 Shades of Socialism, or the 50 Shades new power couple down in Washington, D.C. Feel the burn from the Bern, Bernie Sanders, who's only, out of 30 years of being a U.S. congressman, and he's on his 3rd term as a U.S. senator, only 1.8% of anything that he has sponsored has been written into law or legislation. That is a serious low percentage of success. It really, in several standards, it's less than even mediocre. That's really bad. Okay, so we're going to get into the plan here. I just shared the data. $80 trillion valuation in 2017 data. I'm actually going to download some other in-depth analysis, these projections, assumptions, estimations, and we're going to get into the Green New Deal, the new climate change apocalypse, the 12-year climate change apocalypse, that if we do not start addressing America's energy portfolio, all based off of carbon emissions, which just about everything is made out of carbon in one way, shape, or form. In the number 50 smallest carbon footprint state in the country, one of the poorest states that is federally funded dependent, let's break down some numbers. So, and I'm going to, listen, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is a lot prettier than Bernie Sanders. Hands down. Even if you're a confused individual about your sexual preference, she's a lot cuter than Bernie. You just got to give it to her. So let's really just break this down. She's proposing a $93 trillion renewable energy makeover for America. And I actually think that's a very low estimation, to be honest with you, for the size of our country. They're both pitching the $32.6 trillion Medicare for All plan. You just total up those two utopian makeovers, that's $125.6 trillion. That's another awesome negative $45.6 trillion. Oops. We didn't quite calculate that out right. We got to figure something out. It's just not America, for one. Especially, it's not the public and private sector setup that has made America one of the most innovative, entrepreneurial spirit, hard work ethic countries that have designed new innovations that have certainly solved a lot of problems. And listen, I'm not saying we're perfect. We've certainly had our, obviously, there's many individuals who just feel that reparations need to be paid for just about everything and anything in the past that America, during its growing phase as a country, needs to pay reparations to. So anyway, I like science, technology, engineering, and math, and we're going to certainly crunch some of these numbers. We're already at a negative $45.6 trillion result with the 50 Shades of Gray socialist new power couple between Sanderism and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortezism. Vermont already has felt the massive pain from the EB5 champion scandalism between Leahyism, Sanderism, and Welchism. And that's just two boondoggles that have cost the Vermont taxpayers, many of the contractors that did the work. It ended up in a negative $375 million result. And that was after the settlement, after, all those lawyers that patted themselves on the back for being able to track through the number of accounts and, the Ponzi scheme that was designed by two Democrat contributors, or two lifelong Democrat real estate speculators, let's just say, basically ended up with a small slap on the hand when it came to the end-all result. Meanwhile, Vermont has a couple generations worth of debt on their back. And listen, it's not that hard to figure this stuff out. We've got an education system that is teaching Common Core. A lot of our kids are just unable to succeed in an education system that seems to be completely not only messed up, but it is not working in the best interest of our children, let alone the best interest of the future of America. That's a negative $45.6 trillion estimation. Wow. And having the opportunity to speak with one of the former individuals that worked on the projects up here in Vermont, we discussed a lot of the numbers, we discussed some of the projects up here, and when Vermont is pitching the Green New Deal with a $500 million taxpayer-funded fossil fuel, banning natural gas pipelining, basically wanting to put anybody that hauls oil out of business. These promises of biomass fuels, biomass plants shipping, all the trees that they're going to cut down to put in the 200 plus miles worth of industrial wind turbines, and the 30,000 acres of solar farms. Now listen, I'm pro-business. I'm definitely pro-job. I'm, trying to start up a business model in my own home state that I came back from after witnessing the collapse of the Soviet Union in December 91 in two fast-attack nuclear submarines, U.S. Navy diver, and I have to come back and deprogram my own children on the feasibility of this unsustainable pie-in-the-sky, already a negative $45.6 trillion promise with this Green New Deal, the new climate change apocalypse, the 12-year plan if we do not start addressing carbon emissions in the number 50 smallest carbon footprint state in the country. One of the poorest states in the country, one of the most federally funded reliant states in the country. No infrastructure. I mean, they're piecing in small electric car charging spots, let's say. They're certainly thinking, well, they're not really thinking. I got to be honest with you. It's not well thought out at all. It is nothing but a complete, hey there, Lance Abear, how you doing, brother? So we're kind of breaking this down from a business perspective. And I'm having a little fun with it. And I realize if I offend anybody out there, I'm going to just apologize in advance. But this is a serious taxpayer bailout Ponzi scheme in the making. And Bernie Sanders has been down in Washington, D.C. for 30-plus years. He's only written 1.8% of legislation into law. Now, you would think, after being part of the trifecta of deflecta, Vermont's U.S. Senator Patrick Leahy, 44-plus years that he's been down in Washington, D.C., with the guidance of all of that experience of Patrick Leahy, teaming up with the 30-plus years of Democrat Socialist, Socialist Democrat, Progressive Socialist, Socialist Progressive, Independent, feel the burn from the burn, Bernie Sanders. Yeah, he's beaten whoever in raising funds, but let's take a look at this plan, because I am really enjoying, I'm going to go down line item by line item of the new 2019-2020 Democrat/Progressive Socialists that are all announcing their exploratory committees. Hi there, Mona Thresher, how are you? In order to beg, borrow, steal, well, they're going to try to do it legally, but they're going to beg you for money. We've already seen how Elizabeth Warren really needs a little better beer drinking technique. She's only raised $300,000. I mean, the DNA test alone is probably, let's face it, she's living in one of the very wealthiest spots down in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And I have nothing against Massachusetts. I'm going to confess this openly. I'm slightly biased. I'm a Red Sox fan. I happen to love Boston. Enjoyed working at Fidelity Investments very much, designing the Roth IRA rollover business models that actually generated multi-billions for that seriously old, outdated, out-of-touch generation that's dying off. Now, does that sound a little harsh? Well, I'm just a little sick of some of these boondoggles that are being created by a generation that has seriously either failed science, seriously failed technology, their engineering skills stink, their math skills stink. So the 50 Shades of Socialist/Communist, Marxist, Socialist Democrat, Democrat Socialist, Socialist Progressive, Progressive Socialist pitch that you're hearing from the new power couple, Bernie Sanders and the new New York U.S. Congresswoman, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who seems to be benefiting from capitalism rather nicely. She's certainly updated her wardrobe. She's looking pretty fashionable. She's definitely a lot cuter than Bernie Sanders. But meanwhile, we've got like these 40-plus individuals that just seem to hate America, everything about America, just willing to throw and jump on these plans, this $93 trillion renewable energy makeover, the $32.6 trillion Medicare for All plan. You total those two up, that's $125.6 trillion. I just showed you the 2017 World Bank evaluation. That's just 2 years ago of 80 trillion. That's a negative $45.6 trillion deficit. Basically, money that's not even out there. And I'll do my best to fine-tune this a little further, but I'm just kind of having a little fun with this at this point in time. Businesses don't run very well in the negative. They can only stay in the negative for so long. And if you continually beat the living hell out of any small business model, any mid-sized company, and even a C Corp company that has billions of dollars, you only have 2,200 billionaires, okay? Even with Bernie Sanders' constant, long-winded, seriously boring beat up of the top 1%, just in the 50 shades of communism that they're pitching in their two big plans, the $93 trillion renewable energy makeover and the $32.6 trillion Medicare for All plan, that's a whopping $125.6 trillion just in those two plans. I'm using 2017 World Bank global evaluation data of 80 trillion. That's only 2 years ago, okay? I don't know. What do you think? We're witnessing the complete collapse of two of Bernie Sanders' socialist heroes. Venezuela is under complete financial collapse with just two of Bernie Sanders' socialist heroes, Nicolas Maduro, Hugo Chavez, taking down one of the most wealthy South American countries in a very short period of time. Because let's face it, anytime you got a good program and a country all of a sudden, or let's just say a dictator, decides to nationalize it, and it's failed that rapidly, I don't know about you, but I'm not even going to send in 2 cents to Bernie Sanders' campaign. I mean, if he has, out of 30 years, has only written 1.8% of legislation into law, 1.8%. Let's just do the math the old school way. Because let's just say, Common Core stinks. I'm not going to do it's just really easy. I had some great teachers, had to memorize my times tables. And listen, I'm not saying I didn't make mistakes, but at least I would review my work, and we'd have to crunch the numbers. And I was off the coast of Vladivostok, Russia, when the Soviet Union collapsed. And we all know how China deals with Democrats or democracy back in '89 when the Tiananmen Square massacre went down. Okay, so now we've got the new 50 Shades of Grey, New York-born power couple between Sanderism and the far cuter Alexandria Ocasio-Cortezism, pitching the $125 trillion plan to make over America. Already a negative $45.6 trillion plan. How's that feel? I'm going to tell you something. If you don't pay attention, feel the burn from the burn. Bernie Sanders is certainly setting up a lot of people for a lot of failure. I don't care if you're a rock star fan of Bernie Sanders and you're willing to tattoo his head, his glasses, and his hairdo on your skin. I want you to sit down for just a couple minutes. It doesn't take complicated math to really figure this out. You can still send in the money. You can vote for him. But I'm going to tell you something. You are getting set up for a serious boondoggle. Because just discussing some of the projects with one of the former project managers up here in the state of Vermont, very honestly, Vermont did not buy the most efficient solar panels for those solar farms. The two industrial wind turbine farms, without some of, the they're supposed to be warranted or guaranteed or whatever for 25 years. It doesn't take too much to really dig into the Vermont or the decarbonization methods of Vermont consulting group that was paid $120,000 in order to basically put together a presentation in order to try to convince Vermonters that they can afford $500 million of fossil fuel taxes in one of the poorest states in the country, for one, to reach, or let's just say beat, the brand new pitch of the climate change apocalypse coming to a state near you in 12 short years if you don't buy into this $125.6 trillion plan, which is already at a negative $45.6 trillion deficit, because the global valuation just in 2017 data was $80 trillion. Now, I'm going to dive in a little deeper and see if I can dig in a little bit more of some of the listen, when it comes to valuation, you can play with numbers, and listen, you can certainly, valuation basically determines how much someone who is super rich and wealthy is willing to pay for something that someone else may not want. And let's face it, you got a very old and aging population that got to live, raise a family in a much, or let's just say a far better economic picture, far more affordable during the good years of America. And you've got good old Sanders with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. They've either seriously failed, I'm just going to say it. They seriously failed science. They know nothing about technology. Engineering, oh my God. And then their math stinks. I don't care what accountant he has or how many lawyers he has. These numbers stink. They're paying somebody a lot of money for nothing, and it's just going to end up in another taxpayer bailout Ponzi scheme, which, let's face it, feel the burn from the burn is, I'm about willing to give him expert status at that point, because just in two boondoggles with the EB-5 scandal, the Burlington College debacle, that ended up in a negative $375 million result for Vermont taxpayers. So, it doesn't take too much to figure it out. So we're going to have some fun with all the 40-plus exploratory committees, and we're going to go line item by line item on each candidate's plan, and this should be a lot of fun. It's going to create a never-ending, I'm going to have a lot of fun writing about it. But if you're a business owner out there in any state, I would certainly want to invite several business owners to attend the March 23rd, 2019 No Carbon Tax Vermont presentation at the State House from 9 to 12 noon. If you want to see some of the, let's just say, a more common sense breakdown with actual numbers from professionals that have managed multi-million-dollar projects and have actually delivered them that generated a profit for their investors, rather than these Ponzi schemes that you're getting pitched out there. Stay tuned, because there's a lot of fun coming your way. Have a great day, and address the Vermont State Tax Code, business owners. It's one of the most rigged, set up for failure state tax codes in the country. It's the reason why Vermont's dying, decaying, and not advancing. And all it takes is adjusting the tax code, a little more business friendly, for at least a decade plus to dig the hole that the trifecta of deflective dug everybody into. And I'm getting a little tired of the 12-year climate change apocalypse fear-mongering that they're pumping in our kids' heads. So stay tuned. A lot of fun's coming your way with numbers and, you know, actually breaking stuff down. So have a great day.